Navigating the world of vaccines as a parent, it can honestly feel like carrying a massive mountain of responsibility. You want to protect your child, obviously, but it is completely natural to have questions. Maybe even a few fears about when it's actually safe to vaccinate and when it isn't. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking the official medical guidance and transforming it into a comforting, super practical handbook just for you. We're going to strip away all the confusion and look exactly at what the source material says about keeping your kids safe. Okay, let's start by defining a term you are probably going to hear a lot: MedOVOD, or a medical exemption. As the text outlines, we need to be really clear here. This is not a permanent pass to just skip vaccines, and it's definitely not an excuse to leave your child unprotected. Instead, think of it as a strategic, medically necessary pause. It's really all about finding the absolute safest time for your child to get their immunization, making sure it perfectly aligns with their unique biological timeline. So to get you completely comfortable with this whole process, here is our game plan for today. We're going to cover true versus false contraindications, specific rules for specific vaccines, a really handy pre-clinic checklist, how to tell normal reactions from dangerous ones, a definitive post-care guide, and finally, we're going to debunk some of those persistent myths. All right, diving right into Section 1, True versus False Contraindications. Okay, let's dive into this. To make informed decisions, we first have to separate the absolute hard-stop medical facts from temporary everyday illnesses. On the absolute side, we're talking about lifelong delays. Things like a previous anaphylactic shock, severe immunodeficiency where a child literally can't handle live vaccines, or progressive neurological diseases. But then we have temporary exemptions. These are incredibly common, short delays. If your kid just has an acute respiratory infection, like the flu or some unexplained fever, you just hit pause. You wait until they recover, and then you proceed about 2 to 4 weeks later. No big deal. Now, what about the false alarms? The text calls these false contraindications, and they're essentially common boogeymen that scare parents into delaying vaccines for absolutely no reason. Teething, but there's no fever? Totally safe. Mild anemia, dysbiosis without diarrhea, or allergic dermatitis that's currently in remission? All perfectly fine. And what's really crucial here is that children with stable conditions, like perinatal encephalopathy or Down syndrome, they actually need these vaccines even more because their immune systems can be so vulnerable. Moving along to Section 2, Specific Rules for Specific Vaccines. So it's really important to realize that every single vaccine has a completely unique formula. It's a different recipe, and therefore it has its own specific set of rules. This cheat sheet right from our source material is fantastic for this. Notice how what stops one vaccine doesn't necessarily apply to another at all. For example, the BCG vaccine for tuberculosis, that's delayed if a newborn is premature and under 2,000 grams or has widespread skin disease. But the ATDS, the pentavalent vaccine, is halted if a child has afebrile seizures, meaning convulsions without a fever, or progressive brain conditions. And then the KPK, for measles, mumps, and rubella, requires caution specifically if your child has a severe allergy to egg proteins or an anaphylactic reaction to the antibiotic neomycin. See? Totally different rules for different shots. Which brings us to Section 3, the pre-clinic checklist. I love this part because it's all about empowering you. This is exactly what you need to know before you even see the nurse. Just ask yourself these 4 simple questions. Has there been a fever in the last 2 weeks? Is your child's appetite and sleep completely normal? Have you introduced any new foods recently? And lastly, is anyone else at home currently sick? Reporting these answers to your doctor is honestly all the screening you usually need. The guidelines are super clear here. Completely healthy kids do not need routine, stressful blood or urine tests before getting a shot. They just don't. All right, Section 4, Normal versus Dangerous Reactions. Okay, this is it. This aftermath is often the absolute scariest part for parents. So, we are going to draw a really strict, clear line between a totally healthy immune response and actual real danger. Look at the normal side. Redness at the injection site under 3 centimeters, a fever up to 38.5 degrees Celsius, and just some mild fussiness. That is entirely okay. That literally just means your child's immune system is actively working and building up its defenses. But on the dangerous side, this is when you need to act. Massive swelling over 8 centimeters, a fever rocketing past 40 degrees, or any signs of fainting or shock. So, to put that in perspective, the absolute crucial number to memorize here is 39.5 degrees Celsius. According to the medical text, when a fever crosses the specific threshold of 39.5, that reaction definitively starts moving out of the normal zone and into the dangerous category. That requires medical attention, and it likely means you'll get an exemption for the next dose of that specific vaccine component. Now, what's really interesting about this is the concept of the encephalopathic cry. We are not talking about normal cranky baby fussiness here. This is continuous, incredibly loud, high-pitched crying that lasts for over 3 uninterrupted hours within the first 3 days of the shot. The source material is completely unambiguous about this. If this happens, it is an absolute contraindication for the next dose of that specific vaccine. Full stop. Let's look at Section 5, Post-Care Guide. Okay, you're back home. These are the highly practical steps of what to do, and honestly, more importantly, what not to do. I highly recommend memorizing this list of the 5 don'ts. First, do not rubber massage the injection site because that actually disrupts the vaccine's absorption. No hot baths or steam. Do not introduce any new foods for 3 to 4 days because if an allergy pops up, you literally won't know if it was the new food or the vaccine. Fourth, don't rush to give fever medication until their temperature hits 38 degrees Celsius. You kind of want to let the body fight a little bit on its own. And finally, avoid crowds, weddings, and markets. Seriously, so often what looks like a severe vaccine reaction is actually just a child catching a brand new virus from a crowded market right after their immune system was temporarily occupied. To manage all this post-care properly, you just need a simple home kit. Have some paracetamol or ibuprofen on hand for fevers, antihistamine drops if your doctor advises them, and just some sterile gauze with clean water. Oh, and the text specifically warns against old-school home remedies. Absolutely no alcohol compresses, and please keep the cabbage leaves in the kitchen and off the injection site. And finally, Section 6, Debunking Myths. We are going to use the exact source material to thoroughly and impartially address the biggest fears parents carry. It's the elephant in the room, the most terrifying question a parent can ask. And hey, if you've heard the rumors, it is completely natural to worry. Do vaccines cause autism? The source material delivers a stark, definitive answer to this. That 1998 theory proposed by Andrew Wakefield, it was investigated globally and proven entirely false. It was actually fraudulent. The reason this myth still spreads like wildfire today is due to a logical fallacy of timing. You see, the natural signs of autism typically begin to show around 1.5 to 2 years of age. And, well, that just happens to be the exact same time children receive a cluster of scheduled vaccines. It is a heartbreaking timing coincidence, absolutely, but massive global studies confirm it is just that, a coincidence. It is not cause and effect. And this brilliantly illustrates another major concern parents have, the trace elements inside vaccines. People hear aluminum and mercury and get terrified. But the data shows a baby actually ingests more aluminum naturally through their daily intake of breast milk than they ever do from a vaccine. As for mercury or thiomersal, modern single-dose vaccines contain absolutely zero, none. And even historically, the trace amounts they used did not accumulate in the body. They were quickly flushed out. So, what happens if your child did have a valid medical exemption and their whole schedule was delayed? First of all, don't panic. You haven't ruined their immunization calendar. You simply observe the minimum 4-week interval, and then you just pick up right where you left off. You do not need to restart the entire sequence from zero. It's really that easy. I want to leave you with this final, empowering thought straight from the text. A medical exemption is not a complete refusal. It is simply shifting vaccination to the safest possible time for your child. An informed parent is a child's absolute best defense. Remember, skipping vaccines doesn't avoid risk. It simply leaves your child completely unprotected against very real, very dangerous diseases. Now that you have the facts on when to vaccinate, the next question is, do you know exactly how your child's newly trained immune system will conquer these viruses if they ever encounter them in the wild? Thank you so much for exploring this vital topic with me today.